Hello, Abigail here, and today I want to talk about the new moon in Aquarius. This new moon is on the 29th of January at 7:36 a.m. EST. And this is a refreshing moment. Actually, this entire week feels like a bit of a refresh in the Mars retrograde, and this new moon I think is going to help clear that energy and allow us to not completely, but to start to get a little bit of traction. Obviously, we're still in the Mars retrograde. Um, we're still in the Jupiter retrograde, but this week has a lot of forward thinking action. We have Uranus go stationing direct the day after this new moon. We've got a lot of nice trines happening. So there is a flow and a freedom to this week that I think is much needed and is going to be really beneficial for us. So when looking at this moon, it is at 9 degrees of Aquarius. Obviously, as a new moon, it is conjunct the sun. And while not buddy buddy with Pluto, it's still within that 10-degree orb that I use with that planet. So, we're 8 degrees apart, but we're still under this influence of Pluto. So there are really deep and intense themes to this moon. Also, earlier on this day, a little over 4 hours, because it's at 3 a.m. We also have Pluto and Mercury going into their conjunction as well, which definitely adds an extra energy to this, especially in the same sign. Obviously, we get aspects and stuff that happen, on the same day in different signs, disconnected from, from these lunations. But with this one, that Mercury Pluto conjunction is setting the tone for this. Things are going to be coming to light. Like this, as the sun conjunction kind of shined a light on um, corruption and deep personal feelings and things like that, Mercury conjunct Pluto gives a voice to those things. So it's a really beautiful progression that we get the sun kind of illuminating these things first, a week prior. And now we get Mercury putting a voice to these things, especially in an air sign. So we're going to be getting a lot of information on this day. It is going to be important to sit with it and to soak it in rather than to instantly act on it. Like I said, we're under, two other retrogrades and the Uranus retrograde as well, because it's stationing direct the next day. So there's not a lot of intense forward moving action we can take in this day, but we can set intentions. We can investigate desire. We can 100%, replant our feet in the morals and the values that we are continuing to maintain through these really difficult transits and times. This is also a great lunation under Saturn of a recommitment, especially with Pluto, a recommitment to your personal truths, a recommitment to the communities you care about, to commit your courage and bravery and resources to protecting your community and caring for your community is a really kind of pertinent theme for this new moon. This is also about believing in something better, believing in more than just this moment, more than just, the Pluto of it all. Mercury is a messenger, so we're also getting messages from spirit. This is a great moon to meditate on, to sit with, to allow to come in and to support us as a Saturn ruled, moon. We do have Saturn direct in Pisces, and that's influencing this. So it's, Aquarius season is not going to feel as Aquarian when we're in such an intense water sign. There is a bit of, I don't say subterfuge, but definitely undercurrents to be paid attention to. Just be very observational in this new moon. Also, something really beautiful that's happening is we have Jupiter retrograde at 11 degrees, 2 degrees from a, exact trine in this moment. There is a flow between benefic things and this moon. Now, yes, is Jupiter retrograde? And also in a sign that it is detriment in? Yes. The good things don't always show up in the way we expect them. They don't always appear um, as whole good. I think very much Jupiter and Gemini, what it repeatedly teaches me is that Jupiter and Gemini is a trickster. We see a lot of silly, goofy stuff happening, kind of ludicrous, like overtly wild behavior from people. But with this trine, we get to take this energy and utilize it. Things might be chaotic. How can you create your own chaos? How can you engage in your own jokes, as it were? Um, you know, Learning to playfully resist, to activate not just our very serious, intense focus, but also activating our creativity and activating our joy and love for the ridiculous in this moment. Like I said, this is a good new moon to kind of just sit and soak this in, to allow, the energy to speak to you. I think I used to do this specifically for eclipses, and now I kind of move between this energy, but I do a little less on new and full moons. Yes, I will set an intention. Yes, I might release something, but I also try to leave space for the universe to speak. This is also very much a representation of how my chart works, so it may not work for you. Um, but I often work better when I take the time to listen to what the universe is saying, to listen to um, the information that's coming through rather than constantly acting all the time. It's important to not just constantly be making demands or constantly be pushing forward what you want, because sometimes the universe is something better for you. Um, and taking that time allows you to kind of digest what might be more functional, what might be better for your purpose than the plan that you have, right? Because we do have limited perspective as humans, in these, physical forms. So take time. This moon is ruled by Saturn. It is about taking time. It is about not pushing or pressuring ourselves, or you know, trying to make things happen. The universe isn't really letting things get the green light right now. A lot of us are being kind of held up short by the retrogrades. So allow yourself to move in sync with this rather than constantly fighting against it. You are just going to exhaust yourself, especially under a Saturn moon. Like I said, this is a great time to see, to kind of, seed deep personal intentions. Remember, we're going to be seeing a full moon in Aquarius once we hit the summer, when a lot of things have shifted and changed. Um, so, like my normal advice is, plant intentions and also manifest the feelings you want to feel. I can 100% guarantee you, once we're in the summer with all of the huge shifts that happen over the spring, you are not going to recognize yourself. So, it doesn't mean you can't have very specific dreams and desires, but maybe manifest the feelings that you want those things to give you. So, if the universe, through eclipse season and retrogrades of Venus and Mercury once we hit March and April, and Neptune moving into Aries and Saturn moving into Aries and Uranus moving into Gemini, which all of those major planets are going to retrograde back into their signs, you know, and then be back in 2026 officially. But a lot of stuff is going to have shifted. So my advice is to manifest those feelings, manifest desires in the form of what you want to feel, how you wish to be supported, um, because your desires may change by the time we end up getting into that, Aquarius full moon. Your needs will have shifted by the time we get to that Aquarius full moon. So just keep that in mind. Some people do 100% do better manifesting one-to-one stuff. And if that's you, do whatever works for you. But my advice to people who don't manifest that way, or who are feeling that their normal form of manifestation is not working, is to use this Saturn ruled moon to set a nice foundation of what you desire as far as feelings and support and needs. For instance, if you're feeling lonely, you can manifest friends, and kind of leave that open ended. Good friends, stable friends, friends I can go to in X, Y, and Z situations. Or I want to manifest support I want to manifest having enough food. I want to manifest, having an excess so that I'm not constantly living in survival mode. I want to manifest joy and satisfaction. There's so many ways to put your desires out into the universe. You don't have to stick to like the pop manifestation. You should manifest in a way that works best for you, and it's not one size fits all. The way I manifest isn't going to, work best with you, and the way you manifest may not work best for me, and that's totally fine and makes total sense considering how energy works. So yeah, in this moon, dig into that. Like I said, that Jupiter trine is really beautiful and refreshing, but also retrograde. So we're gonna have to revisit some of these themes. And Jupiter is playing games, being the trickster. I think a lot of us are going to get really necessary revelations and assistance, but it's not going to be the way that we expect, and it might be something really goofy or silly, where you get your needs met. And I don't know that this moment is going to be all of your needs met all at once. That's not usually how things work, at least not for me. But you might get a little something that kind of comes in and gives you the support to kind of make it to the end of this Mars retrograde. A lot of us really got hit between the eyes with that Pluto conjunction to the sun. And it's important to know we have a Mercury conjunction too, so that energy is going to be coming in. So only use the energy that you have. If you feel that you can't really do a big ritual, don't. Light a single candle. Does it need to be a spell candle? No. It can be the scented candle on your table, and you can pour your manifestations into that. Um, I'm not a folk witch per se, but I am very much a proponent of using the stuff at your disposal, using the energy at your disposal, using the resources at your disposal. If you are tired and need to sleep, because I will give people, which prescriptions to do on noon and full moon sometimes, and they're like, oh, I missed it. Clearly, you needed a nap. Clearly you had other things going on. So the universe is shifting you towards a different kind of energy to use, and that's totally fine. Like, I pick what I think is best based on my knowledge. If the universe has other plans, that's totally fine, and it'll work out better for you in the long run. So especially for this new moon, only use what you have. Don't force yourself or push yourself. And this is coming from someone who loves pomp and grandeur, who loves to buy excess little trinkets that they don't need. But you truly only need what's in your cupboard. Cinnamon is coming to mind. Doesn't have to be in stick form. You can use powder form. Sprinkle that somewhere. Manifest it. You can put a little bit in your pots, actually, not a lot because you don't want to overdo it. But cinnamon's actually a great, not really a pesticide, but it deters bugs, and well, it deters fungal growth, which then deters the bugs that eat the fungus in your plants. So you can even do your manifestation with your plants. Like I said, just use a little bit. I tend to make cinnamon water and then spritz my plants with it, so it's not quite so intense. But yeah, you can do a ritual with your potted plants. Um, you don't need to build an altar or anything. If you want to, great. That can also be a wonderful way to celebrate this new moon. But I have a feeling a lot of us are going to be running on a low battery. So use what you have and conserve the rest. The universe is here to help and support. You have guides and ancestors and other, beings and deities and angels, etc., whoever you work with, who are going to come in and help support you. You don't need to do everything on your own. That's also a good reminder for this new moon. We need each other. That includes the spirit world, that includes our physical communities. This is not the time for apathy. It is not the time for despair. I do think that trine with Jupiter is going to help us feel a little more hopeful, but, you know, put one foot in front of the other, especially in this season, especially with this new moon. Um, Secrets are going to be coming out. People are going to be telling stories and releasing um, things they have kept inside. It is not all going to be nice stuff that people have kept inside. So keep that in mind. I'm going to pull a spread for this. I'm going to set my mic down for this. I'll pick it back up once I start reading, but I'm going to shuffle for us. I don't get to do this often. I used to do short form, and I never had time to shuffle in short form because I talk too much. Okay, I'm back. So we start off with the Five of Swords. This feels really on point for a Mercury Pluto conjunction. There's going to be a lot of conflict. The Five of Swords, this doesn't have to be long term, but there's going to be a lot of um, differing opinions, people picking fights, people being overwhelmed or surprised by information and lashing out. This is your warning. You don't have to participate if you don't need to. Now, if you're defending or protecting yourself, of course, do what you need to do, but you don't need to engage in fear mongering and infighting and picking sides, which is going to come up on this new moon. You may not be intrinsically a part of it, but you will definitely be observing it. So, always take a step back, especially in retrograde seasons. It does not hurt to take a pause. It does not hurt to step back, to reevaluate, to take note of, what is not only being said, but what's also not being said. What topics are people avoiding? What things are people feeling comfortable to engage in the pursuit of avoiding other things? Because when we hit Pluto stuff, people 100% try to avoid it, for better or for worse. Our next card I think is super interesting. We have this Eight of Wands. It does feel like this new moon is kicking something off. It's pushing something forward, moving us ahead in some way. I don't think it's something that you have done or activated per se. Maybe something that you've activated a while ago, but something is kicking off. The Eight of Wands is kind of our card of speed and quickening. So we are going to see things starting to move. Like I said, I really do feel like this week with everything that's happening, we also have Venus conjunct Neptune and the North Node in Pisces. And yes, this is in like the shadow of the Venus retrograde, but I do think there is a forward feeling that it's important to pay attention to. We are moving ahead. We are progressing in some ways. Is it always obvious? No. Does it feel like we are being dragged backwards into past centuries? 100%. But there is something quickening. There is something moving. Maybe it's not what you expected. Maybe it's very spirit led, very universe led. But things are going to start to roll. And it's important to be ready to move when that intuition hits you. Um, like I find with Mars retrogrades, they're not stagnant, but the stuff that happens in them is very clearly, if you don't believe in energy and magic, it's very happenstance. If you believe in energy and magic, it's very fated. It's almost as if the universe has been waiting for this retrograde to unleash this thing. And it's a very neutral thing. It can be really good, it can be bad, it can also be mixed. It can be, something that you're really excited about, but also you're like, wow, what timing. Then we have temperance in all of this with that Pluto in, loose conjunction to this moon. It is about tending to that inner world with temperance. It is about, I love the imagery of the like the flow between the two cups and the solar and lunar themes and also the tree. This is about not, overweighing one portion or over focusing on something. This is about creating flow and being able to shift, between different parts of our lives. I always say that, regulation and emotional regulation is not the ability to stay put or the ability to stay balanced in one place. It's the ability to move from intensity to intensity without that intensity overcoming you and overwhelming you, which is very important in these times, especially in the like final days. Well, final days. We have like a month more of the Mars retrograde. You know, and the waning portion of the Mars retrograde to allow ourselves to feel our feelings, to allow those feelings to shift and move and bounce, from intensity to intensity, but to allow it to continue to move, to keep that flow going, just like in this card. So tend to your inner world if these things are devastating your inner world. Take a step back. Um, don't engage if you don't feel like you have the energy. There's no need. This is the time to build resilience. This is the time to regulate yourself. This is also the time to commune with people who, next card, Three of Pentacles, who are supportive and helpful. We do have a Three of Pentacles, and I love it for this, especially, we're not an earth sign. Saturn's not an earth sign, but Saturn is very earthy to me. Um, Ironically, because I have an Aquarius Saturn. But this is about building community, and you don't need to agree one to one with everyone. And when I say don't need to agree, obviously people who, you know, wish you to not be here anymore or to not have human rights, obviously I'm not talking about them. But you don't need to agree one to one in order to build a coalition with someone. You don't need to agree one to one in order to create community. You just need to believe in the other person's humanity and they need to believe in yours. So in this new moon, like I said, conserve that energy, but when those opportunities arise, build those communities. Well, my microphone cut out, so that was fun, me playing with fire. So we were on the Three of Pentacles, talking about that building of community, also discussing how it's important when we build community to not only see ourselves as a builder, to not only see ourselves as a helper, and to not only see ourselves as a recipient. It's important to be everything. In capitalism, we're so often taught there's only one role that we have or one thing that we do. And what that creates is burnout, which keeps us from being able to function as a full human, which keeps us in that system. And so it's important with this card to really dig in and, accept help and know that you're building this community, for everyone, including you. um, I so often see and sense in myself this kind of like weighted, binary of helpers versus, people who need help. And that's just not how it is. Um, I do think it's interesting, we have this kind of set of kind of intense, more blue toned cards at the beginning, talking about, the intensity of the energy and the confusion and the quarrels. And then our last two cards have this warmer energy with temperance and with, um, Three of Pentacles. So this is just a reminder to, you know, recognize the chaos and the energy, but these are the cards that you can really function in, maintaining that balance, maintaining that inner flow, letting that flow, infuse everything you do and pour into your community. And last but not least, we do have the Seven of Wands. I do like the representation of this in this deck because we have the Seven Wands and they've kind of created not really a shield, but um, kind of a protection. And there's these flowers growing on it. In the traditional deck, it is a person on the higher ground fighting off other wands below. But I love this one because it's this idea of creating protection, but protection that also produces growth and is sustainable and compatible with the environment it's in. Yes, we are fighting, but we want to build walls and structures and protective things that not only um, protect us, but are also amenable with the environment we're in, that create a space where we can plant flowers on it, where, those who are being protected by these boundaries, are getting something back, and it can be beautiful and lovely as well. Often we see boundaries as these hard lines, whether they be physical or emotional or spiritual, but they are simply protective edges that fluctuate with our needs and should also integrate into our environment. They shouldn't be these stark emotional walls. They should be flexible and mutable and life-giving as well. So in this moon, if you need to put up boundaries, which probably will happen with that Five of Swords, um, do that. But make them something that is both protective and nurturing and life-giving. It doesn't have to just be, one wash of paint. It can be a boundary can be so much more than protection. It can be strength, it can be life-giving, it can be soil that nurtures. So don't forget that in this Saturn ruled moon, it doesn't have to be stark. We don't have to go scorched earth on everything. Sometimes the best forms of defense are green and growing, rather than dead and cold. Um, like I said, don't overdo it in this lunation. Don't push yourself too far. Utilize the energy that you do have and let that flow. And also, utilize the energy that you've cultivated in community with people, friendships and groups. And, ironically, I'm talking to myself because I, once again, tend to do very much all or nothing, and do tend to like see myself in one role, which is often the role of being a giver and helper. There are many reasons for this, not all of them healthy, but allow yourself to be dynamic this season. If you have been, needing help, maybe this is the time that you offer help to someone else. If you have been helping consistently, maybe this is the time to ask for help. Like I said, lean into that trine with Jupiter. Is it going to be silly, goofy, unexpected? Yes. It's definitely going to be one of those things, when the time comes, you'll know. So, don't push anything. Everyone has a different chart, everyone has a different energy. These are all suggestions that I hope resonate with you all. But take care of yourselves. Don't overdo it. Work within your capacity. Celebrate this new moon in the way that works best for you. Um, and I wish you a blessed new moon in Aquarius. As always, please subscribe. Not only does it give me more visibility, but it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside when I get a subscription. And and share if you feel so led. But yeah, I am excited for this new moon. I do believe it's going to be a nice little burst of new energy. Don't take that energy as I'm wont to do and run with it. Take that energy and sit with it, conserve it, take care of yourself. Anyways, I love you all.